I'm the Analyst, and normally I'm here to talk about Hollywood's biggest box office flops. Today, however, we're going to go back to films that weren't flops and were downright profitable, much like Forrest Gump a month ago. And this is What Could Have Flopped. Now, for decades, the action hero is usually designated to be male, from the likes of Bruce Willis's John McClane to Harrison Ford's Indiana Jones. However, women are just as capable of being the heroine of an action movie as the men are, especially in recent years with the likes of Katniss Everdeen from The Hunger Games to Lucy from Lucy. And actually coming up this weekend is another film which features Scarlett Johansson, who portrayed Lucy, as an action heroine, Ghost in the Shell. And to honor that, we'll be looking at another film with a prominent action heroine, and one of the most defining examples of the genre. And yes, like the last two entries of The Analyst, this is too a sequel. Though I promise next week will not be a sequel. However, this sequel is actually good. And today we'll be looking at Terminator 2 Judgment Day. This is an example of a sequel done right, with everything the original did back in place, but with new additions to make it better, as well as new concepts such that it is on the same level of quality as the original Terminator. And of course, the original mind behind the first Terminator, writer-director James Cameron, again returns to write and direct, as well as two major leads from the original, Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator and Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor. Of course, the other major actor, Michael Biehn, who portrayed Kyle Reese, was also supposed to return, but he ultimately failed to appear. He was supposed to appear in a dream sequence, but that got cut out of the theatrical cut. And he was also originally pegged to portray the main villain, which would have confused audiences as Schwarzenegger and Biehn would have traded places. Biehn go to the villain, Schwarzenegger the hero. The film wound up being the most expensive film ever made at the time, coming in well over budget with $102 million spent to make it. And that doesn't include another $33 million in marketing and distribution costs. Additionally, where the original film was distributed by Orion, this film would be produced by Carcolo, and the distribution rights now belong to TriStar Pictures, a subsidy of Sony. So how did Terminator 2 succeed, whereas other sequels like The Huntsman Winter's War and Independence Day Resurgence fail? Let's find out. We open with a flash forward to the future over Sarah Connor's narration that again a Terminator was sent back to kill John, her son, as a child, and that a protector was sent back before we zoom to the present, where the T-800, again portrayed by Arnold Schwarzenegger, storms a bar and gets clothes, a motorcycle, and two guns, and does so without killing anybody, in contrast to the original film where he kills at least 4 people, just to get his weapons and clothes. Meanwhile, another comes from the future, and he's played by everybody's favorite, that guy actor, Robert Patrick. And he proceeds to kill a cop to assume his identity and get his gun. And it's clear he is our bad guy, the T-1000. And he is completely different from the T-800. As while the T-800 isn't exactly subtle and sticks out like a sore thumb, the T-1000 can blend in anywhere, mimics anyone's voice and appearance, and that makes him even more terrifying than the T-800. While you could see the T-800 coming, you will never see the T-1000 coming. And that doesn't include his incredibly rapid ability to repair itself, and it can form knives and stabbing objects out of itself. Both are here for John Connor, played as a teenager by Edward Furlong, as a juvenile delinquent with a penchant for hacking thanks to his mother, Sarah, again portrayed by Linda Hamilton, who has been institutionalized after attempting to destroy a computer factory, as nobody believes her story about Skynet, though in all honesty, who would? and is watched over by Dr. Silberman, who is again portrayed by Earl Bowen from the original film. John and his friend go to the mall, but after learning a cop is looking for him, he tries to flee, only to find himself between both Terminators, and it's soon revealed the T-800 is the protector when he blocks the bullets from hitting John, before returning fire with his shotgun, allowing John to flee. Here, it's clear that the T-800 is this film's equivalent of Kyle Reese, and part of the T-800's arc in this film is him understanding the culture of the time as well as humanity to ultimately become more than just his programming. Following an incredibly tense chase scene, John and the T-800 ride away, where the T-800 explains that the T-1000 is liquid metal, and that he has almost certainly murdered his foster parents, and that Sarah Connor, his mother, is his next target, so he could use her to lure John into a trap. John, however, insists that they have to save her despite the Terminator's objections over the risk, and they travel to the asylum, where Sarah is making her latest escape attempt, only for her to freak upon seeing the T-800, thinking it's the same one that chased her down over a decade ago, even though he supposedly was crushed by her. Still, seeing that guy again would have shocked the hell out of her. Of course, John appearing makes Sarah realize this one isn't the threat as the T-1000 approaches, chasing after them, but they manage to escape. While they head down to Mexico in order to hide, the Terminator explains the circumstances behind the event known as Judgment Day, in which Skynet became self-aware and thus fired a load of nuclear missiles, nearly causing mankind's extinction, and that the company behind Skynet was Cyberdyne, the key individual being Miles Bennett Dyson, portrayed by Joe Morton, who has acquired the chip and one of the arms of the original T-800 to study, thus creating a stable time loop, because Skynet sent back the Terminator, its parts are going to be studied by Dyson, and then those parts are eventually going to be part of Skynet. It's a loop. Down in Mexico, Sarah has a nightmare about Judgment Day, which features one of the most realistic depictions of a nuclear bomb ever put to celluloid, and thus decides to murder Dyson, only for John and the T-800 to intervene before she can execute him, and they reveal to Dyson what his work will do. As a result, Dyson agrees with the Connors to destroy Cyberdyne to prevent his work from creating Skynet. However, while planning the explosives, cops swarm the building, believing that the T-800 is the same one that slaughtered all those cops back in the original. Fortunately, the Terminator fends them off with a grenade launcher and a minigun in one of the most awesome sequences of the film, all without killing a single person. Hey, did you know that the T-800 was supposed to use a Mach-10 for this scene? But James Cameron fortunately decided the minigun looked much cooler, having seen it in Predator. John hacks the security to acquire keys for the safe that held the original Terminator's parts, getting them so they can be destroyed and kept away from Cyberdyne. However, Dyson is killed, detonating the explosives as he dies of his wounds, which destroys the building and much of his life's work. While the T-800 and Connors escape in a SWAT vehicle, they are pursued by the T-1000 in a helicopter, which results in Sarah being wounded, but the chopper is eventually brought down and they change vehicles, going in a pickup truck while the T-1000 drives a liquid nitrogen truck, which ends with them crashing into a steel mill where the T-800 utters the film's iconic line, "Hasta la vista, baby," and shatters the T-1000, having been frozen by liquid nitrogen, only for the heat to melt frozen parts, and the T-1000 is back, and he hunts down John, resulting in the T-800 losing an arm, and then being shut down to save Sarah from the T-1000. The T-1000 attempts to lure John into a trap by disguising himself as Sarah, only for the real Sarah to appear and shoot him with a shotgun. And no, Linda Hamilton is not playing both Sarah and the Sarah T-1000. That, of course, is her twin sister Leslie, who plays the fake. Unfortunately, before the T-1000 can be knocked into the molten steel, Sarah runs out of ammunition. But the T-800, having rebooted himself, the scene of which having been filmed in Christmas, fires a grenade into the T-1000, exploding and causing him to fall and dissolve in the steel.
Is it dead?
Terminated.
John
Adios.
and Sarah dispose of the original T-800 components before our T-800 reveals he has to be destroyed to prevent it from getting into the wrong hands. And in a very tearful scene, John and Sarah reluctantly lower him into the vat of molten steel as he cannot self-terminate. And the film ends with Sarah lamenting,
Unknown future rolls toward us. I face it for the first time with a sense of hope. Because if a machine, a Terminator, can learn the value of human life, maybe we can too.
However, this wasn't the director's ending. That would be a much more uplifting ending that had John become a senator and that Judgment Day never came to happen. Of course, the producers overruled him, feeling that the ending was just too out of left field and didn't fit with the rest of the story. That is one of the better judgments dealt by executives, as most of the time, they don't exactly know what they're doing. That was Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and it went above and beyond the call of a sequel, not only offering the same level of tension and suspense of the original, but also a new twist and stylish special effects, backed by a thoughtful story discussing concepts of humanity, fate, destruction. So that is one reason T2 succeeds as a sequel, but why else? For one, the original Terminator was widely seen as a modern sci-fi classic, well, modern at the time in 1984, and sold incredibly well on home video, which created a massive following beyond its rather modest theatrical performance, making a strong 78 million worldwide back in 84. Another big reason, financial, is that the star power had grown in the 7-year gap. Schwarzenegger would go on from the Terminator to add the likes of Commando, Predator, and Total Recall to his repertoire, while director James Cameron would make Aliens and the Abyss. This resulted in a perfect storm of factors almost impossible to replicate, even by the film's sequels. And in regards to the action heroine, Linda Hamilton is more than able to hold her own as the wiser, tougher, and easily more badass Sarah Connor. And while Schwarzenegger is the more prominent character, she is still a massive leap forward from her character in the original film, so much so that James Cameron unsuccessfully lobbied for her to earn an Oscar nomination. When Terminator 2 opened over the 4th of July week in 1991, it wound up with the biggest 5-day opening of all time at that time with 52.3 million, along with the July opening record, rapidly outdoing its predecessor's 38.4 million domestic gross in a mere 4 days. Audiences gave it a rare A+ cinema score, proving that they loved what they saw on screen, displaying long legs as it held the top spot for 4 weeks, ultimately being dethroned by Hot Shots, and finished its run with 204.8 million domestically. Overseas, it had even more explosive growth with 315 million, led by the United Kingdom with 34.1 million, US equivalent. After theaters take their cut of the gross, Sony would be left with 235.9 million, more than covering its production and marketing expenses. At that year's Academy Awards, it would go on to receive 6 Oscar nominations, winning 4 for its visual effects, makeup, sound, and sound editing, while receiving additional nods for its editing and cinematography, losing to JFK in both categories. And it's currently a fixture of the IMDb Top 50 with an 8.6 out of 10. The film especially holds up well today, particularly with the effects of the T-1000, which were nothing like anything had been done before, and few can prove as innovative. The estimated theatrical profit on this film is $100.9 million. Thanks for watching. Press the like button, be sure to subscribe, and follow me on Twitter at Tyler the Analyst.
It's not every day that you find out you're responsible for 3 billion deaths. He took it pretty well.